I never realized the capacity of love that could swell in my heart when I looked at this child. It was in a moment early on when I had Ellie that I realized just how much my own mother loved me. And yeah, I remember making that phone call to my mom. I can picture it, right? You know, you have those moments where you can picture like you're right there in your mind's eye. I was sitting in Ellie's nursery. I was holding her and I was on the phone with my mom and I started to cry. I said, now I understand how much you love me.
I'm Art Blanchford, and this is Life in Transition.
Welcome back to this episode of the Life in Transition podcast. I am very excited today to have with us Jodi Silverman. Jodi is a speaker, community builder, and a happiness and mindset coach who is passionate about empowering women, particularly those who are navigating the empty nest phase, to rediscover meaning, fulfillment, and fun. Known for her high vibe enthusiasm, Jodi lights up every stage she steps on. She lives in the suburbs outside of Philadelphia with her husband, Sam, and they have 2 adult children and fully embrace the joys of life. Jodi, I love that intro and welcome so much. You're carrying the exact same message as I do for men, but thank you so much for joining us on the MidLife Transition podcast here today.
Thank you. No, I love it. Oh, and aren't there so many transitions?
There are. And, it's interesting. I even, based on your intro and a lot of my focus, I said midlife transition podcast instead of life in transition podcast. But there is a lot of that, and that's your focus as well. So I'm really excited to have you here today. And I really felt a strong connection when we talked in the discovery call. And I feel really lucky to how much our missions align with each other.
Yes, I feel the same way, Art. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So jumping right in, Jodi, what would you consider to be the most meaningful transition that you have been through in your life?
So I gave this some more thought because I knew it was coming.
Yeah.
I'm just going to go with the first thing that really does come to my mind, and that is really becoming a mom.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there were others, but if the one that made the biggest impact, that left the lasting impact of change, it would be becoming a mom. And I say that because it allowed me to become more self-aware of who I was, and aware of doubts and fears, and as well as confidences that I had, because I was always perceived, and I guess I always felt confident and yet not. I don't know if
that makes sense. But I want to drill into 2 things there, though, that you said early on. You said I became more self-aware.
Yeah,
and then you became more aware of doubts and confidence as well. But the self-awareness, how did becoming a mom bring out self-awareness in you?
I started to become aware of those belief systems that I have based on my upbringing, and not good, not bad, no judgment, just belief systems, aware of, what causes me anxiety, what causes me joy, what brings me joy, how I dealt with stresses and anxiety. Because when I became a mom, I mean, it was the most amazing, exciting moment of my life. But I also, I look back and I was a very nervous mom at first. I didn't know what I was doing. I was not one of those little girls that played with baby dolls. I was a tomboy.
Right.
And here I was handed this human being that grew inside of me. And now I was responsible for everything about her. And that was scary. And it was exciting all at the same time. I never realized the capacity of love that could swell in my heart when I looked at this child. It was in a moment early on when I had Ellie that I realized just how much my own mother loved me. And I don't think I ever realized that. But I realized, based on my parenting style, what belief systems I brought into being a mom from my parents. And, they've heard me say this. So it's, if they listen to this, that's okay. I learned a lot about what I wanted to do as a mom based on what they taught me and what I didn't want to do as a parent.
Sure. And I hope every generation has both
Yeah.
of those things to
Yeah.
say, because if we just do what our parents did, then we're not going to evolve
Exactly.
as parents and parenting, right?
Yeah. It's a rite of passage for our kids to like certain things we did and absolutely say, I'm never going to do that, mom. I'm never
Right.
going to do that,
Right.
dad. And I just felt like becoming a parent really fulfilled me and derailed me all at the same time. I mean, if
Right.
we're being honest about it, it did, but not in a bad way, in a way that made me realize, like, why am I so nervous about this? Or what's making me anxious about this moment? And that's where the self-awareness came in. I was able to say, well, it's okay that, not everything is in its place. The dishes are in the sink and the laundry, little things like that, where I look like
Mm.
everything was in its place. And I was a very organized person. I still am. It's just the importance of that organization started to be reevaluated now that I had a full life, because I also had a career in addition to being a mom. So much happened as a result of that transition of becoming a parent.
So you started to let things go a little bit. You started to give yourself some grace,
Yeah,
right?
it
Not
was
everything had to
hard.
be perfect.
Yeah,
Um,
it
yeah,
was hard.
no, it is. And I may have mentioned this. I don't remember in our discovery call, but I love that quote that says, that biologically adults make children, but emotionally, mentally, and spiritually, children make adults.
Yes.
Right. So
Yeah.
it's very fitting that your biggest transition is becoming a mom. And one of the things you said there, I never reflected on myself even was my first child was adopted. And I still had that feeling like when I first met him, it was just a video, right? We hadn't even met face to face yet. And yet still I was completely in love. I mean, I couldn't believe it. It was unbelievable. So I know what you mean about that feeling of love that you have that you can't imagine experiencing other than that, becoming a parent. I never thought about, I never put the connection that you just did, that that's the way that my parents must have felt about me as well.
Right.
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 I never thought about that before. So thank you for that.
Yeah, and your audience needs to understand whatever word I use during our talk today, mom, parent, whatever parenting looks and feels like to you, because you can be a parent in all different ways, shapes, and forms. I mean,
Absolutely.
I know women and men who have opted not to have children of their own, but the way they care for their nieces and nephews and extended family is a parenting type feel and role. And yeah, I remember making that phone call to my mom. I can picture it, right? You have those moments where you can picture, like, you're right there in your mind's eye. I was sitting in Ellie's nursery. I was holding her and I was on the phone with my mom and I started to cry. I said, now I understand how much you love me.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. So when you look back now with a lot of perspective, right? Having adult kids now, what are some other things that you learned by this transition? So you learned to, be more self-aware, to accept things a little bit more as there is. What are some other big things that have translated throughout your life and maybe into other areas of your life also over time from becoming a mom?
A really big one is that when my kids are challenging me, no matter at what age, whatever age it is, even
Right.
now as adults, if I feel like they're not responding to me or they're challenging me or they disagree with me, it's not about me.
Mm,
That was a lesson I had to learn early on. Like, I'm like, why are they fighting me on this? Why are my kids doing this to me? They're not. That's what they're supposed to do. They're learning how to be themselves. They're
right.
learning how to say, I really don't feel like I want to do that, mom or dad. And
Right.
so learning that this is natural, and it's not that they're fighting me. It's not that they're doing anything to me. They're actually trying to be who they get to be. And they're
Mm,
supposed to test the limits of the boundaries that they're allowed to set.
absolutely. Absolutely.
I think we grew up in the same time. I grew up in a time and I remember where, adults told you what to do and there was nothing you were not allowed to say,
Yeah.
but I don't want
Sure.
to. Like but I don't want to do that was so not a thing.
Right.
And
Right.
I remember, Art, I remember feeling so frustrated, like I wanted to scream inside. I didn't understand at the time what this feeling of, like, I could cry, like I'm getting emotional thinking about it. But I remember my younger self in 9, 10, even 13 years old, frustrated when my mom or my dad would say something. And I was like, I felt like I had no choice.
Right.
And
Had no voice, had no
no
choice.
rules. Our
Right.
our children do. I could have a
Yeah.
conversation with my son. He's 26, and I'll bring up a topic and he'll say, Mom, I just really don't want to talk about that today.
Mm-hmm.
And at first, when that started, my first reaction inside was like, I'm sorry. Yeah, you will. I'm your mom. I didn't say that. I felt that.
Right.
And then I learned through my personal growth journey, through
Mm-hmm.
therapy, through my therapy,
Yeah.
that it's okay. Like that's him expressing that right now he's not comfortable discussing that topic because I want to. Doesn't mean he has to because he's a child and I'm the adult. He's a human being.
Yeah, that's
and
right.
Respecting the feelings. And not that my parents weren't respectful. It was a whole different time.
Right.
And so that was one of the belief systems. So I had to relearn.
So this thing about it's not about me.
Yeah.
You articulated it very well with respect to children. How else has that showed up in your life as well?
Oh.
What other areas of your life, like you learned that from your kids or from being a mom, whether it's directly from your kids or from being a parent of your kids, but where else has that showed up in your life?
Every relationship with everybody, because I would venture to say that 90% of whatever anybody says or does, or they don't do or say, is not about you. It's about them. So here's an example. And I love this as a dare for people to be less easily bothered. It's a lesson in the Don't Sweat the Small Stuff book by Dr. Richard Carlson, which is my favorite book ever. And it's a chapter, to be less easily bothered. So how many times, I'm going to ask you and I'm asking your listeners, how many times have you been in the checkout lane at a store and the cashier is unkind or unfriendly or maybe even rude? They don't make eye contact. They're not helpful. And your first reaction is, you know what? I'm the customer here. Like, excuse me. You get that attitude. I dare, my whole thing is about daring. I dare you to pause and flip the script that's not about you. Their attitude is not about you. Maybe instead of reacting, which causes stress and our heart rate to go up, and that is unhealthy for us, instead, maybe take a beat, which is my word for a pause, and think, I wonder what's happened today to make this person, especially around the holiday time.
Yeah.
I've said to cashiers, I am sure it is so hard to be behind that register during the holidays. And in a minute, they soften up. They're like, oh, it's been a day. I've been here since 7 a.m. So even in that instance, it's not about me.
Right.
It's about giving a little grace. But in friendships too, people say things. And most of the time,
it's almost always the case. I mean, you hear, many stories about that. I can remember from my own experience, like, especially at work, I would always take things very personally.
Yeah.
They're about me. And I can remember I had a Post-it note right here on this monitor a few years ago that was, it's not about me. And now I have, actually, it's right here under the glass now, right underneath this microphone on my desk.
It's important.
Because I would, my boss would call, say, hey, I'm about to get on the call with the investors. What are we going to say about sales? We didn't meet our sales target. What are we going to say about sales? And I would hear, I suck. I'm not good enough. He's upset at me. I didn't make the numbers, all this stuff. And I would still give him something, but I would be all bothered by this discussion. Right. And as I was winding myself out of my career and I'd already decided to leave and it was clear and I was working myself out, I got the same call. And I wasn't even directly responsible for sales, but I was the one that was on the executive team that was sort of overseeing it and making sure. And it hit me. It's like, he's not saying anything about me. He's got 15 minutes. He's been preparing everything else and he's about to get on the call with investors and he needs to know what to say about sales. And that's it. So I said, oh, say this and this and this. He goes, okay, great. Thanks. 2 minutes done,
There you go.
And I had no upset. And it was like, wow. And for all these years, I had been making it about me, but it's so powerful. It's so powerful, with children. And it's one of the things I get asked a lot of parenting advice because I've been through the ringer, but 2 adopted kids and 1 biological kid, moving a lot and my own stuff I need to heal, my own therapy I need to have. And a lot of people ask me about parenting advice. And I said, there's only 2 things that I know, which is be the parent, be the adult, which means it's not about me.
Yeah.
Right? That's the whole thing. It's not about me. Right. And then the second one is love wins. That's the only 2 things that I know for sure about parenting. But that first one is, it's just not about me. They're upset. They're cussing me out, whatever. If you've had teenagers, you've been there. And if you haven't been, I'm surprised, right? If you haven't had a situation where someone was really upset at you as a teenager.
Yeah.
But to not get upset by that, to realize that you're adult in the room and they're going through their stuff and whatever it is. And the way that you can help them to process whatever it is they're going through is by not getting sucked into their vortex of pain and upset.
This episode of the Life in Transition podcast is brought to you by MidLife Transition Mastery. If you have reached midlife and you are successful, you have checked all the boxes, you've done everything you thought you should do, and especially pleasing everybody else, doing what you think everyone else needs you to do, but you still feel like something's missing, like you're coming up empty, feeling alone, feeling misguided or lost. MidLife Transition Mastery Explorer community is for you. Here we will build authentic community. We will learn about the 8 steps to mastering midlife transition, and we will learn and execute living life with no regrets in our second half. Please check out the community on lifeintransition.online/MLTM, Midlife Transition Mastery. And I look forward to seeing you around the fire in this community.
And the other part about it's not about the other lesson in the other place where it's not about me comes in is I'm trying to think of the example I wanted to give. If I'm talking to somebody about like a goal I have or something I want to do, and they're like, oh my God, but what if this happens? Or what if this happens? You could easily say, oh my God, maybe I'm not good enough to do that. Or maybe I don't have the skills. What they're really saying is that scares me.
Right.
So that's their fear on you. So it shows up everywhere. And I do also want to caution the parents listening. It's okay to express how you feel.
Absolutely.
It might not
Absolutely.
be. It's okay to, I've said to my kids, hey, you know what? That's fine. But I just want you to know when you said that, I'm a human being too, and I have feelings to remind them. But
absolutely.
The whole be the parent, it's not about you and love wins. I love that. You shared that with me and I love that.
And I think too, with the parents too, it's much better to say, hey, as a parent, I can't take care of this right now. I can't talk about this right now. It's much better to say that and walk away than to lose our cool and not be the adult in the room. Right. And I've done that plenty of times as well, right, where I have lost my cool and then I go and make up, and make amends for that. But it's much better to say, hey, I need a minute.
Yeah.
And it's always okay to do that in any situation, as a parent, in a business negotiation, in a relationship, anything. It's always fine to say, I need a minute. You're always going to be your better self when you come back from that. And things are not going to escalate in a bad way. I've even started doing a lot of my business meetings now where I do check-ins with people to see where they are. And if they're below a 6 on a scale of 10, I won't go forward with a meeting because it doesn't make sense, right? There's something going on with them where they can't be present. Either I can help them address that or we can just reschedule for another time. Right?
Wow, that's a good one. Actually, you started off now I'm understanding you. I'm understanding. You started out with our pre-meeting for this.
Yeah, our discovery. I check in with that. Yeah.
That's a really good way. You know what? I'm writing that one down. Do a check-in before I have any kind of important conversation with Ellie.
Yeah, no, it just helps because if you can't, if you're in a space, if I'm a 3 or a 4 on a scale of 10,
you're not there.
I'm not going to be ready to do a good conversation anyway. And either we can address it together or I can reschedule for another time. Right.
Yeah. You know what? Another great, can I share?
Yeah.
A great strategy, and this will improve your relationships, not only with your children, but with your friends. So the scenario is think for a minute about a person in your life where every time you started to share something with them, they jumped in to fix it for you. Okay, so parents were fixers by nature. Well, I also have a friend that's like that.
And most men are too, especially with their spouses, right? Especially with their wives. Like they start sharing it. We want to fix it. We want to make it go away. Right?
Yeah. So it's the permission question.
Mm-hmm.
It's and it clarifies. So
absolutely.
I got into a habit of when my daughter would call me from college, she's now going to be 30. She would call me from college. You can only vent so much to your friends before they say it's enough with you. So mom and dad are the safe space for that.
Right.
You're an aunt or uncle is. And she would call and she would just start going off about something. And if I couldn't say it in the beginning, because sometimes literally it would be hello, and she would just dive right into it.
Right.
The apple does not fall far from this tree. But at the end, when she would take a breath, and she's like, Mom, are you there? I'm like, well, yeah, but do you want me to weigh in or are you just venting? She's like, oh, no, I'm just venting.
Right.
The permission question, clarify up front, is the person calling you or talking to you about this problem, are they looking for you to weigh in?
Right.
Or are they just wanting you to listen? And when they say just listen, first of all, it's so freeing for them because now they're without judgment. And for you, you could just kick back,
Right.
clear your head, and you can be so fully present and there's no stress involved. It really does improve relationships.
Yeah. I've tried to move to this question a lot. Just what do you need?
Yeah.
Right. It's the same question, but an open-ended one. Like, what do you need? Right. Oh, I just need to vent. Or I want to hear what you have to say. Or I need nothing. I'm complete now. Or whatever it is.
Right. Right.
But yeah, to try to have that awareness, which I fail at a lot. And my wife is very gracious, and she says, "Hey, this is one where I just need to vent." I'm like, "Oh, okay, great. I don't
Yep.
want you to fix it." Right.
Yep. And then tell them, say, no, I have a friend. I tell her, I don't want your thought. Don't tell me what I need to do here. I just want to get it off my chest. Okay.
Right. No, and that's right. To have those clear communications is really good. Um, if you had something now with this 30 plus years of experience of being a mom, is there something that you would tell your younger self if you were to go back at that time, Jodi? Is there something you would like that new mom to know?
Yeah. I would say, to quote Dr. Richard Carlson, don't sweat the small stuff. And the small stuff is getting all the laundry done that minute and washing the dishes that minute versus sitting down and reading a book with your child or, playing a game or going out for a walk. So, it's okay to let the dishes wait and let the laundry wait and ask for help if you need it. I would tell my younger self and the younger moms, chill.
Right.
Just be more fully present. I didn't even know what presence was.
Right.
We didn't even have Facebook groups when I was raising my children.
Yep.
Gosh, if I had known what mindfulness was, and if I had known about all of this, I don't regret because my kids are great. And I've actually said to them, I wish I had known about affirmations. We would have pulled a card every day at dinner.
Right.
We are so happy you didn't.
Yeah, you did it. Yeah, trust me, because I have a box of quotes I put on the table, and my wife keeps moving it off the table. Nobody wants that art,
They do. They do. You know what? They see it. They read it. It's there. But that's what I would tell them. I would say, don't sweat the small stuff. Let it go. Let it go.
And I want to add to that, because it's also okay to maybe have the male perspective or the business perspective. The business call can also wait, right? Other things can also wait. It's not just the laundry and the kids and the dishes. Or I think of, and I can't remember her name, but she's a very famous TV writer. She had like the 5 most popular TV shows all at the same time.
Shonda Rhimes? Shonda?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. But she talks about that whenever her kids, she had young kids, while she was doing all this, she had young kids. Whenever they asked her to play with her, she would say yes, no matter what. And then she would have like a whole cruise of people waiting, right? It's not like the dishes waiting, or maybe you have one meeting or the report's going to be late to your boss. She'd have a whole cruise of people waiting. But she said the thing is, it usually only lasted 15 minutes. But they really wanted her full attention. And she was so much better for it. Like she goes, I would have burned out. I would not have been able to produce and do the things that I've been doing if it wasn't for those times playing with my kids. So it was very interesting. And she's like, and everybody got used to it. Oh, she's going to take a kid break. That's the way it is. Everybody go get a coffee or whatever, in 15 or 30 minutes, she'll be back. Yeah. And then on the spur of the moment, not like we planned this on Thursday at 2:00 in the afternoon. I'm going to have a play date with my kids. So it's okay to let other stuff wait as well. And I thought about this a lot this year as my youngest, it's your empty nesting thing. My youngest left for college in September. And I can remember this summer, last September, so a little over a year ago, I got turned on to Oliver Berkman, who's this Stoic professor at some Northeast school, but he was on Waking Up podcast or Waking Up app, this meditation app by Sam Harris. I was listening to him, but he talks a lot about last time meditation. To think about anytime you're doing something, that this might be the last time I get to do it, as a way of bringing you mindful, as a way of bringing you present, right? And so, he gives example of he's a rower, and he's 69. It might be the last time he gets to be out in the water, right? Or I think about it when I'm mountain biking. I had a mountain bike injury this year, and every time I go down, I think, hey, this could be the last time. But I was thinking about that, like when I'm walking by the stairs up to my daughter's bedroom, going to bed, and it's 9:30, and I'm tired, or 10:30, and I think, oh, I could just yell good night, which she probably won't hear me anyway, right? Or I could go up, but I'm tired and not feeling it. And I think, wait a minute, this may be the last time that I get to go. and tuck my daughter in at 18 years old. There may be a time she doesn't want to do that anymore. It may be a time that she's not living here anymore. And when she's leaving for college, I mean, she's coming home in 10 days. So,
Yeah.
She'll be home for Christmas, but you never know, right? You never know. So to have that, to use that to help bring awareness to what I'm doing, if I'm out running, this may be the last time I get to go for a run. And so I'm going to appreciate which my mind says, the same trees that I've seen 150 times before this year, but to really be present with it and so forth, because you don't know it. And with kids, I think that's so true. And at every stage, right? Whether you're reading them a story for the last time or whether it's a vacation that you're going to go on, whatever it is. But that's been really powerful for me to help, plug into my kids and even get over my nervousness. If I see my 23-year-old son who doesn't like the hug and say, hey, can I get a hug? Why? Because I need one. He's like, okay,
I always do that too. I say to my son all the time, my daughter, I just go for it. My son, like, hug? He's like, sure.
Right. So to keep that in mind. So that's a really good one. Not sweat the small stuff. And most of it's small stuff, except the relationships, right? I have another, I think this actually, I've heard it in a lot of places, but I think I actually first heard it from my boss of a long time, who I had a lot of ups and downs with, but I think it was he that was talking about that, there's many balls that we're juggling, especially when we're crazy busy executives, parents, et cetera. He said, the thing is that you have to recognize which balls are rubber and which balls are glass.
Oh my God, that is so good too. Right. Look at you packed with all this wisdom. I love that. That's true.
And it's true. And the relationships, especially the chills, are glass, right? If you go you drop that one too many times, it shatters.
Yeah.
Right? If you drop, not just make a small mistake at work, if you quit your job, if you drop the whole thing, it'll bounce back. Someone else will hire you, you'll get some other opportunity, right? But if you really damage your relationship, you may get it back. But it's those are the things you really need to pay attention to, right?
Yeah, I love that.
And let other things drop if they need to. And as you were saying, don't sweat the small stuff, and everything except relationships really is the small stuff. So
it really is. It really is.
That's really good. Where do you think that your life would be if you hadn't become a mom? If you hadn't gone through, and I say become a mom because that may not be. You talked about that as your transition, but really your transition was about becoming mindful, becoming aware, becoming self-aware. Where do you think your life would be if you hadn't made that transition?
If I would have to make a guess, I would probably be working 80 hours a week. Like my career would be the fulfilling part of my life, and I would be dive first into that with me. However, I would still have relationships. I'm a very big relationship person, but it would be all focused on. Well, I would hope I'd be married to my husband because he's like the best thing that happened to me. That was like one transition. That's another one that was like huge.
Sure.
Because he has such a different perspective on things, and it helped me so much. But I probably would be more hyper-focused on accomplishments and career.
Right.
As the sole way of filling myself.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. And I mean, I can raise my hand there because that's what I did for the first 25, 30 years of my career.
Yeah.
Even though I was a dad and had a family and was a workaholic. And there are aspects of it that are fulfilling, but identifying with it as a whole identity.
Yeah.
Work, right. I can tell you from my experience. So, well, I'm glad you got to have that experience of being a mom, to be the full person of yourself. What other areas of your life did that experience move over to? I mean, did you continue in your career? Did things like where else did that show up? Like that transformation of becoming a mom, where else does that show up in your life?
So when I first became a mom, I had no intentions of leaving my job. I was in sales.
Right.
I worked for a national company in direct sales, marketing, and advertising services. I basically sold junk mail.
Oh, okay.
Mail you get in
You're the one.
I'm the one. I didn't put the stuff. I distributed it. But,
you're the reason my recycle bin is full every day at Christmas time.
That was so me. I loved it. I had a lot of flexibility, and I was able to work 3 days a week. So 3 days in like the business world where I just thought about and had adult conversations. And then I had the 2 days plus the weekend with my family and my kids. As they started to get older, and as we had a wonderful woman from when my daughter was like an infant who would come for those 3 days a week. And she was with me all the way until my son was 2 years old. And they're 3.5 years apart. So she was with me that whole time, with us, I should say.
Right.
And it was when Daniel turned 2 that she was going to retire. And that's when it hit me. No, I don't want anybody else doing this. I want to pick up a preschool. I didn't miss a lot of things for my children because I had the flexibility in my sales career. That was a beautiful part of the sales career that I had, is the flexibility. As long as you hit or exceeded your numbers and showed up for your Monday morning meeting, nobody bothered me.
Right. Yeah, sales was the early work from home, opportunity, as long because the numbers are so easy to measure, right?
Yeah, so true. And so as he got older and she was in elementary school, I wanted to be more present. I wanted to volunteer to go in for Native American Day at the school was a thing, or go in for their holiday party or read to the class. I had no interest in PTO. And for all the parents listening, do not feel guilty about not wanting to be part of the PTO. It wasn't my thing. My thing was if there was an opportunity to come in and read to the class, I was going to read a story. Go in for a couple hours. Yes. That's when I started to realize that my husband and I had a conversation. I'm like, I don't want to find somebody else. I want to do this. And things were changing at the company I worked for. They wanted us to come. We had to go back full time. They were going to bring us in multiple days a week to be in a meeting. I'm like, this is the time. So I left and started my own company, my own business, selling commercial print services. And that was a big transition. That was a transition I made to be more fully present as a parent in my children's life, and opened up more space in my life, not only to volunteer and be part of their preschool and elementary school world, but to find a hobby for myself. I discovered tennis. Which then, and it's still a big part of my life, as long as my right knee will allow me to play.
My wife's a big tennis player as well.
Love it. It became a huge part, adult competition. I'm a captain of the teams. So that was another big transition within the transition of becoming a parent. Like you said, if I reflect back, maybe I would have found the sport, but I probably wouldn't have cut back and started my own business had I never had children. Because I was doing great. Why would I work? So that was a big one to allow me to start my own business, which I didn't realize was entrepreneurship.
Which a lot of people wouldn't think of that as being a mom, that's what also can give you an opportunity to start your next profession as well at the same time. As and being a mom is plenty. There's a lot to do inside of that as well.
This episode of the Life in Transition podcast is brought to you by Transition Mastery Coaching. If you have made it to midlife and you're successful and you are going through transitions in your life, in your business, in your career, or in your organization, and you are looking to master those transitions, to make the most of them, to accelerate into the next phase of your organization or your life. If you're facing challenges in your business, challenges in your relationship, challenges in your health, and you really want to transition those quickly, I'm here to guide you for that. And I look forward to working with you. And you can sign up for either Pinnacle Transition Coaching or Summit. Please go to lifeintransition.online/MLTM and scroll to see the Summit and Pinnacle Coaching, or reach out to me directly on my email, art@artblanchford.com. And I look forward to connecting with you and helping you to accelerate your transitions to achieve what it is that you want to achieve in the second half in your organization and in your life, so you can live your whole life with no regrets.
And I have to share this one other thing. A lesson I learned watching my children, both my kids, they're 3.5 years apart. Both of them have this one quality about themselves. They're good, kind, likable human beings who they don't care what you think about them.
Yeah, that's great.
They will wear what they want to wear. And if their friends say, why do you wear dresses every day? She's like, because I like them.
Yeah, that's great.
And both of them have said something to me when there has been a conflict somewhere in their life with friends. Like my son, I said something about what somebody might say. And I remember my son turned to me and said, Mom, don't you get it? I don't really care what they think. And I thought, who are you? And where were you when I was a little kid because I wasn't that confident. And my daughter had a thing that happened and she's like, well, I'm not changing for them. If they don't like me because of that, I'm like, no. And I was in awe.
Yeah, no, that's wonderful. I mean, that's wonderful. And it brings up, so many things for me. I think I like Brene Brown talks about belonging, that if you have to change who you are to belong, that's not belonging.
No. So
Right.
they taught me.
That's wonderful.
They taught me how to really not care. And I didn't care a lot, but I cared more than they cared.
Right. Right. No, that's wonderful. Like I know in recovery, somebody just told me, said that what other people think of me is none of my business.
It's absolutely one of my favorite quotes. Be yourself, everyone else is taken, and
Yeah.
other people's opinions of you are none of your business whatsoever.
Yeah, there was another one. I don't know if this was Joseph Campbell or somebody else, but said better to be hated for who you are than loved for who you're not.
There you go. That's
Right.
a beautiful
Even
one.
if the fact is you don't have to make that trade-off, but if you did, it's better to love yourself
Yeah.
and not be loved by everybody else than to hate yourself or be feeling incongruous with yourself.
And look, to do the show that you're doing and to do the show that I do, because I have a podcast as well, you have to understand that you're not going to appeal to everybody. My voice is not good for everybody. I can get really loud. I can be really excitable. I can be, and that might not be somebody. That might not be calming enough for somebody. And that's okay. I'm not here.
Right. You're not going to get
appeal
everybody
to the world.
Yeah. No, if you can, if you, I mean, if you think about there's 7 billion people on the planet, if you can have a positive influence on a couple of handfuls or a couple of thousand or even a couple of million,
Yeah.
that's still an incredibly small percentage of the planet as a whole.
Yeah, when I started Beyond Empty Nest, it was all about whoever it resonates with, man, woman, aunt, uncle. I don't. If what I say resonates with just one person, I've done my job. Right? You've done your job.
So this is probably a good lead in. One of the question I want to ask is, who is coming to you for help through transitions now? Or who are you helping through transitions in your life?
So my community is called Moms Who Dare. Although I love dads, my husband's an amazing dad. My dad is an amazing dad.
Right.
My focus is hyper focused on the mom.
Yeah.
So I serve and support midlife women and moms alike navigating the life transitions, such as empty nest or menopause or caring for our aging parents, all of those messy
Nice.
transitions, retirement.
Right.
Well, who am I? Who am I now?
Right. Without my job, without my title. Yeah.
Outside of all those roles, whether it's the role of a husband, but it's the mom, it's a midlife woman who comes to me.
Awesome. No, that's great. And I want to take a chance to say here, I think so often, we've gotten so sensitive in culture that we think it's not okay to talk about just helping women or just helping men or saying Merry Christmas or saying Happy Hanukkah. The fact is, all of those things is, doing them an individual is what makes life, the rainbow of life, possible. Right. And by focusing on being, helping moms at the expense of dads, except that moms being better moms makes dads better dads.
It's
and
not
men being better men helps them be better in their families and their relationships. So there's nothing at all to apologize for focusing on moms. That's just like saying you like the dresses or you like the green socks instead of the pink socks, right? It's fine.
And that's exactly, I've had a couple of men want to join the Facebook group, and I don't send them a message. I give them a voice message because I want them to understand. I'm like, I know you're going to understand this. If you don't find a dad group, I'm going to find one. Well, now I found somebody for them.
There you go. There you go. Yeah.
But they always say, no, I totally understand. And I agree. I 100% agree with what you just said. There are boy clubhouses and girl clubhouses, and they're just, for whatever you are, there are that's why there's churches and synagogues.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I mean, it's okay to have.
It's okay, right? Don't sweat the small stuff. It's okay. It's okay to say Merry Christmas. It's okay to say Happy Hanukkah. It's okay, right? It's okay to say Happy Holidays, but we don't need to blend ourselves out in order to fit into culture.
I talk about that Christmas thing all the time.
Yeah.
Because so I have to address it.
Yeah.
Because as we're talking right now, it is approaching Christmas.
Yeah.
And Hanukkah. I'm Jewish. I celebrate Hanukkah. And every year I go Facebook Live on Facebook, and I get on my little soapbox and I try and offer, my whole thing is offering another perspective.
Right.
Stop getting upset if somebody wishes you a Merry Christmas.
Right. Right.
Because I don't know whatever it is you're hearing from that.
Right.
I dare you to hear, I'm wishing you well and all good things.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
That's what I hear.
Yeah,
I don't feel disrespect. I don't feel you're wishing me something beautiful.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So come on.
It was funny. I was living in China at a time when it was maybe the peak of you can't say Merry Christmas in America. And in China, which, is maybe a third Christian nation, it's not even a Christian nation, it was everybody's greeting. Everybody was Merry Christmas, whether it was in Chinese or English. We had Christmas trees, not by my doing, right? But there was Christmas trees in the lobby of my office in China that the Chinese put up there that were not in the lobby of my office in Detroit. Right.
Yeah.
So it's just interesting, but it's seeing all those things. Like, I would never get offended if somebody says Happy Kwanzaa or Happy Hanukkah. I would say, oh, thanks. Happy Hanukkah to you as well. Yeah,
they're
great.
wishing you well. They're
exactly.
Come on, in today's world, I'll take all the love and good wishes.
Exactly. I was at dinner last night with a friend of mine that's she's Jewish and he's Catholic, and now he's Jewish as well. But they celebrate both, right? So they have the blue and silver and red and green and everything around the house at Christmas time and at Hanukkah time. And this year they're very close to each other as well. So they
Hanukkah starts at sundown on the 25th.
Yeah. So anyway, I wanted to bring that out as well. How has becoming a mom affected your other key relationships, or this transition of self-awareness and growing? How has it affected your other key relationships?
I'm more accepting. I am less easily bothered.
Mm-hmm.
I'm more, I try to be as present as possible. And I say try because I don't always succeed, but I'm much more present now than I ever have been. I'm more accepting. I'm more understanding. Yeah. And I'm more aware of myself. So I'm better at boundaries within my relationships, when you set boundaries for yourself, it serves and supports the other people in your relationships too.
And it serves a relationship. A lot of people think, you can't set boundaries because it'll damage the relationship. No, it makes the relationship better.
No,
much
better. So I think better. All of that.
Wonderful. If you could give one tool to our listeners, Jodi, like with all the things you've thought about, what you've learned from these transitions you've been through, somebody's going through a transition. Maybe it's a new mom. Maybe it's just becoming self-aware. Maybe it's recognize, and self-awareness is painful because we get to see all of our flaws, right? But if there's somebody that's in sort of the messy liminal space of transition in their life, what is one tool that you would recommend that anybody can hit the pause button on this podcast and jump into right now and use? What would that be?
One of my favorites, looking for the good.
Mm-hmm. Say more about that.
Okay. So I became a Happy for No Reason certified trainer. There was actually a book by that title, Marcy Shimoff, Happy for No Reason, and she has a certification program. I'm very fascinated by optimism and happiness. And I did this unknowingly that it was a thing. Like I didn't know.
Right.
So when I say look for the good, and this goes to being present, Art, seek out the good. This is kind of like a gratitude thing. So throughout the day, for example, I am fascinated with the sky. So I might look up and say, wow, look at the clouds today. The sky is so cool. And that's it. That's step one.
Absolutely.
Noticing, looking for the good. Seeing a cute dog. Oh my gosh, that dog is adorable. Or a little baby. Or it's just something good. Like you walk into Whole Foods and you're like, wow, look at the flowers they have.
Right.
Look for good. And then the second part of it is, don't just walk by it, see it and walk by. Stop and savor it for about 20 seconds. This is about...
You said for 20 seconds.
20 seconds.
Okay.
20 seconds. Savor for 20 seconds. There's research behind changing the neural pathways in your brain to hold on to more positive versus negative. We have a negativity bias.
Sure, to keep us alive when the amygdala ruled the day.
Exactly.
Right?
So negative experiences tend to stick to us longer, where positive ones, we see it and then it flows away and the negative is back. When you intentionally look for the good, savor for 20 seconds, that starts to help condition your brain to see the good and hold on to the good longer. And the third part of the practice is, if all you ever do is look for the good, and you can make it at night saying, God, what was so good about my day today?
Right.
And that's the gratitude. If all you did was that's enough. But the third part would be when you experience a negative thought, emotion, and you come across something that's not so positive, it's a little negative, come up with a 3-to-1 ratio, good to bad, good to positive.
Right.
So what other possible things could be good from that situation?
Right. What could be good? And come up with 3.
All of this goes back to...
So look for the good.
savor
I
it.
love the savor part. I never heard that before, but like not just notice, but time yourself. It'll feel long, but it's really not. But
And
to
go for
really
3 to
savor
1.
it for 20 seconds. And then if you have something negative comes up, look for 3 good things that might come out of that, 3 possibilities.
To counterbalance it. Yeah.
Oh, beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's a lovely conversation, Jodi. I really appreciate it. Love your energy. Love what you've brought here. Love your openness. If people want to find out more about you, where can they find out about all the good stuff that you're doing? You've mentioned a couple things in there, but you have a podcast, you have a Mother Who Dares group. Where can they find out more about you?
Everything is at jodisilverman.com. And I would encourage all the dads out there to send your moms in your life, the women you love, the mom figures in your life, send them over to the Moms Who Dare Facebook group. But you can access the podcast and the Facebook group all from my website, jodisilverman.com.
And that'll be in the show notes as well. So, Jodi, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time. It's really been lovely having this conversation.
Thanks. I look forward to hosting you.
Yeah, I look forward to that as well.
Yeah.
I can't wait to hear what action you are taking. Connect with me on LinkedIn or our website, lifeintransition.online, and let me know. Let a friend know too. It could be a huge encouragement to them and keep you on the track. Thank you so much for joining me today. Make sure you subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts, and it would mean a lot to me if you left a review and shared this episode with a friend. If you want to learn more about me and what I do when I'm not podcasting, please visit me at artblanchford.com. Thank you for listening. Together, let's make the most of life in transition.